Hello and welcome back to another video here on the Sam Hill channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Leeds United transfers, some realistic transfers that I think Leeds should make this summer. I'm going to be talking about six major positions. I'm going to be talking about goalkeeper, centre half, left back, a midfielder, and a striker and an attacking midfielder. That's the six. At the moment of recording, Leeds have only signed Ethan Ampadu just yesterday. There's no other sort of concrete links at the moment. So if anyone crops up before you watch this video, don't blame me. Not my fault. There was nothing before or as of recording. In terms of the players, I'm going to be going through two options per position. I'm going to be going for a realistic option. A lot of these players we've been linked with at the moment, talk a little bit about those. And then maybe a little bit more of an out of the box or another option that perhaps Leeds should look at. So without further ado, let's have a look at the goalkeeper position. Lovely. So the first player I'd like to have a quick chat about is Carl Darlow of Newcastle. Now, this is a player that's been quite heavily linked with Leeds. I've seen some smatterings of maybe him, the goalkeeper position, being the next priority with Meslier due out the door. And I think, it says here transfer market £1 million. I think that's a little bit on the low side. I think Newcastle will be looking somewhere closer to five, maybe a little bit north of that. At 32, he's a really, really quality goalkeeper. He's done it at this level and above for a number of seasons. Last season on loan at Hull, he had a save percentage of 75%, which is a really, really respectable amount for a goalkeeper. And 51 touches per 90 is a really important one. That's some really, really good involvement as a goalkeeper. His distribution's really, really good. I think he'd be a really good option for Leeds. I think he'd be very much what the 49ers are talking about in terms of a short asset, a definite quality that we know he has. I think the age may be a little bit of a concern. I think we've gotten quite used to Leeds signing players of a certain age, that sort of 22, 20, maybe low 20s towards the mid 20s age range, and getting maybe a few more years out of them. But in terms of a goalkeeper to take us straight back up to the Prem and maybe give us a season in the Prem as well, Cardano looks like a really, really good option for Leeds. Now, the second goalkeeper option that I'd like to talk about today is one that I haven't seen Leeds linked with. I haven't necessarily seen him linked with a move away from the club he's at the moment, Burnley. It's obviously Aro Muric. He was the goalie that got them promoted last season. Played a really, really integral part in their promotion. As you can see, 74% save percentage. So again, really, really good numbers. Only 41 touches per 90. But the interesting thing with Muric is there's a lot. I can't remember the exact stat off the top of my head, but he's really good at sort of sweeping the box, coming out of his box and meeting the ball. Really, really confident on the ball, and a little bit of a risk taker on the ball as well, which I think had some Burnley fans panicking a little bit at times, and definitely would have Ellen Road panicking at times. But I mean, the quality's there. He's done it. He's been promoted with Burnley. Burnley obviously signing James Trafford this summer. They've got Bailey Peacock Farrell. Could he be looking for a move away? Maybe not a move backwards. This might be a little bit of an ambitious one for Leeds. And obviously, as it says there, the price mark of 10 million from Burnley. I think possibly they'd be looking somewhere close to 15 million, somewhere close to what they paid for James Trafford. But if you're looking for a keeper for the next couple of years, at the 23 years of age, you'd get five, six, seven, eight, however many seasons out of him you needed. I think he would have the quality to get you up in the Championship and then make that jump to the Premier League as well. I think he could be a really good alternative option for Leeds if we have a little bit more money in that goalkeeper position. But maybe if we're trying to sign a keeper before Meslier leaves, then maybe that one in terms of the 10 to 15 million might be a little bit too ambitious. Lovely. So moving on to the centre half position. Nat Phillips, again, a player we've been really strongly linked with. Transfer mark say around £4 million it would take for Liverpool to let go of him. I think it would take a little bit more than that, somewhere north of the 5 million mark, maybe 6, 7, 8 million, maybe even up to 10 million. It would cost. But a player of his quality, he's only 19 Premier League appearances. It says there, but five Champions League appearances and a fair handful of EFL appearances as well down in the Championship. At 26 years of age, he feels like a player that maybe similar to Ampadu has not played enough games for his age, and maybe one that it could be an untapped sort of career left in him. At 26, you'd get a number of years out of him. I think as a fan, I'd be confident with him at the back for the next 2 3 seasons, maybe your first season or two in the Prem. I definitely would be confident in him in the Championship. He's really good on the ball. He's tall. He's strong. He's commanding. He could be a really really good option in there, especially if Leeds don't maybe necessarily see Charlie Cresswell as being a completely ready asset just yet. He could be a really really good player for us. Could we maybe justify the price tag when we've already got the likes of Cresswell? Ayling can play in there, Cooper, Verba, Stroik, a lot of these players at the club. Obviously, we don't know who possibly will be leaving. But I think if that is the money that Leeds want to sort of spend on a sure centre half for the Championship, then I think Nat Phillips could be a really really good option for them in there. Okay, and now this second option I've been looking at in the centre half position is maybe a little bit more of an interesting one, but again one from Newcastle, similar to Carl Darlow, is Jamal Lascelles. 4.5 million on transfer market. They reckon it would take. I think it would be about that, £4.55 million for Newcastle to say goodbye to him. I think he's a player that's due to fall out of favour quite heavily at Newcastle. Whether he wants to stay at Newcastle and see out his career is maybe a different one. I don't see him getting many Premier League offers, possibly quite a high wage demand. But if we could convince him to make that drop down, he's a really, really, really good player. He maybe allows you to lean on more the likes of Struijk or Helder in that left centre half position, having a real leader on the right hand side, as well as Cooper on the left. 159 Premier League appearances, 100 plus EFL appearances. Need I say more? The quality is definitely there. And the money, I would imagine, would be there from Leeds. It'd be more a question of whether or not Newcastle would let go of him, and if so, would he be able to be convinced of a Championship project? Maybe not. But I mean, if we Leeds could get hold of him, then he really could be a special player in the Championship. And then moving on to the left back position, bit of a controversial this one, and not necessarily one that I've put in there because I think this is the best player for Leeds to sign. Charlie Taylor from Burnley. Now, as you can see, I've got him there in the Leeds United kit. I don't know if I would have him back personally. I don't like how it ended with us and him, and I'm sure he doesn't like that either. But I think there's a lot of fans would be upset with him. There's potential for it to go quite toxic if things don't come off to a flying start. If he did come to us, but 3.5, 4 million, it says on Transfermarkt. I think that's a reasonable amount for him. Again, similar to Lascelles, 133 Premier League appearances, 126 Championship appearances. He's done it at both levels before. I certainly think maybe he's more of a Championship player at the moment. I don't think he's got that Premier League quality just yet. And I don't think he ever really will now at the age of 29. But a player that could be really, really solid for us in that left back position, allowing Drama or whoever it is down that right hand side to bomb forward a little bit more. Taylor, with his height, ability to sort of sit in a little bit more defensive, gives us that flexibility with building up with a back three as well. I think he could be a good option for us. He could be a really good player for us, but maybe that sort of relationship with the fans might just be a little bit too damaged for now. And then the other player in that left back position, this one seemed a little bit obvious, and again one from Newcastle. But when I was thinking of options and looking at some options, the name sort of kept coming up for me. Jamal Lewis, the left back that Daniel Farke had in his promotion campaigns with Norwich, that played on the left hand side as the more defensive of the two fullbacks, with Max Aarons bombing forward on the right. It hasn't really worked out for him at Newcastle. And again, I think it's a player that maybe it will be surplus to requirement this summer, and they might want to recoup some of that money back for him. I think 6 million transfer mark say maybe you have to pay a little bit north of that or around that mark. I think 6 million for a player with the EFL and the Premier League appearances he has, as you can see there, but also the definite fit to the system with FARKE. it's a player I haven't really seen us linked with, but maybe one that if we can convince a move away with, it might be really, really, really beneficial for Leeds. And I know I have included a lot of Newcastle players. Let me just double check. This is the last one on the list. But I think with that Nick Hammond connection, obviously being at Newcastle, he'll understand these players and their contracts and what sort of where they were at with the club. And I also think, it's a really, really good opportunity for a player team that is developing so fast like Newcastle, that there could be some really good deals to be found in there or some really good quality players. Once again, if you can convince them of that championship um, project that Leeds is realistically going to be this summer, I think we've got the benefit that we are a club that maybe people are expecting to bounce back. And a lot of these players we're talking about are a little bit out of favour at the clubs they're at, definitely in the sense of Jamal Lewis. So maybe he could be one to look at, and maybe a really ambitious signing for Leeds in the left back position. Moving on to the midfield position. Now we've got Glenn Kamara is the option in there. 52 caps for Finland international, 27 years old, had a couple seasons now at Rangers, made those 30 Europa League appearances as well. He's a player that's seen a lot of high level football, certainly, and a player that could have that quality. I'm not entirely sure if he's a massive fit to the system, or even if he's a player Leeds are necessarily looking at, albeit one we have been linked with quite heavily. I think for somewhere around the £5 million mark, it's a good player, but maybe not someone I would go for with that sort of money. And I don't know how he would do in that second midfielder position role. I feel like it's quite a free role, quite an attacking role. And I sense he's maybe a little bit too defensive for my liking, which is why I've gone for the other option you guys will see in a second. I certainly wouldn't be mad if Leeds went for Glenn Kamara, but maybe just not the perfect player for that position. Now, the other player that I've suggested in this position, Tommy Doyle of Man City, previously on loan at Sheffield United. 21 years of age, came off the back of a brilliant, brilliant championship campaign last season with Sheffield. As you can see, he's got 50 EFL appearances, a goal and assist every 3 games last season. Really, really good player, a more attacking, more progressive, more creative midfielder in that second midfielder role. Again, similar to Jamal Lachelle, possibly a bit ambitious. I don't know whether you could convince him to make that drop down again. Obviously, got promotion with Sheffield last season. And I'm sure Sheffield will be interested in him as well, because I think he probably is ready for that sort of low end Premier League push. But if we could convince him of another season in the Championship and then obviously us into the Prem as well, I think he'd be a brilliant option. I think the £7 million mark from Transfermarkt is a little bit ambitious. I think we'd have to pay something a fair bit north of that, maybe somewhere in the £15 million mark. But as a statement signing in that midfield role, which is a position that we really struggled in last season, it could be a really, really great option. The only slight concern in there is with his age, maybe he'll be blocking the development paths of the likes of JB and Gray going forward. But in terms of a player that could get us promoted and obviously hold that value as well, I think he'd be a brilliant, brilliant signing for Leeds. Lovely. Then moving on to the attacking mid position. Once again, another ambitious one in there. Ilias Chair of QPR, Moroccan international. 14 goals and assists last season, 5 chances, shot creating action, sorry, created every 90 minutes last season. I mean, he's a really, really good player. He's had a breakthrough couple seasons in at QPR, a player that's really highly thought of at QPR, I think, and therefore that £10 million transfer market value is maybe in the right sort of area, maybe a little bit generous, maybe have to pay slightly more for him than that. But at 25 years of age, with the quality he's got, I think you could convince him to move away from QPR, but still keeping in the Championship. I don't think he's necessarily quite ready for that jump up just yet. But I think you certainly could convince him of the move. But it'd be whether or not Leeds would be willing to fork out that £10 million in that attacking mid role. I think if we do, that is the Emi Buendia 2.0 right there. That sort of really creative, almost a winger playing in the number 10 role, linking up play. Really, really, really good player. possibly something that Leeds could go for again if they're looking for that statement signing in the attacking midfield position. Okay, then maybe one that Leeds fans would be slightly less sort of excited about than Ilias Chair, and maybe one that would be less of a statement signing and maybe go under the radar a little bit. Is Goodmanson of Burnley. Again, got promoted with Burnley last season. Played a number of games for them. The price here from Transfermarkt at 32. I think 1.2 million is still again a little bit low. I don't think it'd be worth them to lose him for that. But a couple million, he wouldn't be quite anywhere near as expensive as the likes of Chair or some of the other players we've looked at. Only the 10 goals and assists last season compared to the 14 of Ilias. 3.81 shot creating actions per 90. Again, he's that winger in the 10, really creative player. Much bigger frame than Ilias Chair, but a powerful player. I don't know whether or not he's ready for the Premier League, and I don't know whether or not Burnley will see him as ready for the Premier League. But if you could again say sort of convince him that the Championship is more his level and offer him that package at 32 years of age, I think you get a season out of him in the Championship, and he would be a really strong asset for Leeds in that number 10 position. Now, on to the big guns, the number 9 position. As you can see, I think there's no surprises that this man is up on the screen. Joel Pirot. I mean, in the Championship, he's proven it with Swansea. Goals, and goals. 19 goals in the Premier League last season, 22 in the season before that, over 80 Championship appearances. He's a player with real quality and as I keep saying, with goals, which I think is what Leeds need in that number 9 position, particularly under FARKE. It's a number 9, you think back to Timu Puki at Norwich, it really worked. He was always there. He was always there, finding the chance, putting the ball in the back of the net. I think Perot is an outrageous championship striker. And I think it was one that you could convince of a move away from Swansea, but certainly one you'd end up paying a premium for, another sort of statement signing. I think that 10 million transfer mark, I keep saying this, I think that's just the transfer value or just the transfer market we're in at the moment. I think that's a little bit kind. I think you'd be looking at sort of 15, 20 million pounds for him. I mean, I think this one's very easily explained. He would be a perfect player for that number 9 position if Leeds were willing to drop the cash and if Swansea were willing to let go of him. And then to round off this video, and I suppose the whole transfer window it would be for Leeds is the alternative option, and that striker position is Jesus Ferreira of FC Dallas, I think it is. He's a US men's national team international, 23 caps. He scored 15 goals so far this season in the MLS, I think it is. Actually, no, I think 15 goals was last season. Sorry, I think I put on this one. I think he scored 10 goals so far in 18 appearances this season. I think with the, age 22 years age, 8 million, I think you can maybe get him for that sort of 10 million pound mark. I think I had to include one American in there with the American owners coming in. And I know the American feel hasn't gone great for Leeds fans so far. And this one definitely is a bit more of a risk, and I don't know whether or not the board would be willing to take a risk on the sort of money you'd spend. Again, sort of that £10 million mark for him. But he's a poacher. He's a real goal scorer. He's proven that with the national team and with Dallas as well. There's a little bit of a talk of him only really performing against the worst teams. Possibly there could be something to be seen in that. But, I think in terms of goals, he's got that. Whether he could convert that to the Championship is a different question. But it may be a bit of an interesting option as a second alternative to that striker position. Another US international, Jesus Ferreira. And that wraps it up for another Leeds United video. Thank you guys all for watching. Let me know down below what you thought of my suggestions. Put anything down there maybe I didn't think of, some players that maybe you guys think Leeds should sign in the summer. Other than that, if you did enjoy the video, leave a like and subscribe for more football, FIFA, FPL, Leeds United, all sorts of content coming. I will catch you guys in another video. See ya.